Now that we've got our form created for our app, the next step is to write the scripting for the code. So we're going to click on the button to start code, because that's where we want the event, rather the action we want to take place when we click the button. So when we click the button, as I'll do right now, and there we go, double click the button rather, it comes up with this public class form1, which is effectively all the scripts associated with form1, and then this one, private subroutine. Don't worry too much about private subroutine or a module, button prod underscore click. In other words, when we click the button prod, do the following stuff that will follow, and then end sub is just okay, that's the end of the instructions. Before we start though, there's one thing I always want you to put at the start of a line, and that's option explicit. And the reason why is because when we make declarations of variables, in other words, we tell the computer what our storage areas are and what they hold, this will check any variable we use in the program against the ones we've put on the list. If there's mismatches, for instance, if we've misspelt one of them, or we've put in a variable that we haven't declared, it will come up with an error. And it just keeps programming so much better and so much easier to debug in the end. So if we have a look at our pseudocode, you'll notice that the first thing we need to do is declare our variables. And the way we do that is write dim, D-I-M. Now, our variables are number 1, number 2, and our product. I'll do that with a capital P to keep. And we're going to declare these as integers. In other words, whole numbers. Now you'll notice that it automatically indents this. Programmers will indent their program at various levels to make it easier to see. So if we do loops or if statements, or later on, the script inside those flow control functions will actually indent the code inside them, and that makes really good programming, and it's also much easier to read for someone else. Okay, so we've told the program what storage areas we're going to have. Let's look at what we need to do. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to put in the contents from our first text box, which is text box num1. So number 1, which is our variable, gets the value of text box. Now you notice that text box num1 appears on the list. Why? Because we've already set it up. And the property of that we want to transfer is the text. In other words, what's inside. Now, before we go any further, that will just put a bunch of numerals in there, or characters. It doesn't have a value. To make that a value, in other words, turn it into a number, we need to put this on the outside. int. In other words, it says convert the numbers in there into an integer. Okay, so that's our number 1. Number 2 is the second, is almost like it. I'm going to cheat and do a copy and paste. I'll show you how to do this. Paste, Control V. Now what I'm going to do is number 2 gets changed, and it's text box num2 dot text. So in other words, we type our 2 numbers in text box num1 and text box num2. They're transferred into number 1 and number 2. Then magically product Now you notice that product is actually on the list. Why? And it says here local variable product is integer. Why? Because we stuck it up here. It should be integer. Made a mistake up there. So product equals number 1 multiplied by number 2. Okay, local variable number 2, it's come up on our list. Very good. And then finally, text box prod box dot text equals product. So in other words, we get the two numbers from text box num1 and text box num2, shove them into number 1 and number 2 respectively, then we multiply them together and put the answer to that multiplication sum into product. And then what we do is transfer text box the product value into text box prod.text. Now, see what's happened here? It says text box prod is not declared. It may be inaccessible due to its protection level. That's not the case. I suspect we've made a boo-boo on the form, or I have. So go back. I'm going to click on this one, and what did we call it? We forgot to do text box prod, and that's why that option explicit is important, because it checks everything that you put on there. So let's fix this up. Text box prod. I didn't actually make this on purpose, but it was useful. So text box prod. So we've made that now. Now we go back to our Form 1 design. Our VB rather. Now you see there's no red line underneath it because it's all right. But here we have one here, not declared. Okay, is it that we didn't do it? Let's have a look. Click on this one. It should say text box num2. It does not. Text box num2, not text box 1. All right, so we go back to our script and text box num2. We just come back here. Yep, with events. So it's actually attached to that form. So the importance of using this one is it checks everything that you put here, and if it says, hang on a minute, I have no idea what this is, then you can make sure and go back to your form or back to your declaration up here and get it all right. Okay, let's do the final bit. Here's our start, so we start our program. And eventually our window will appear, hopefully. Yep, there it is. Okay, so we're going to get two easy numbers, 10, 10. Now hopefully when we click to multiply it'll go to 100, which it does. Alright, let's check another two. 43 and 20 should be 860, shouldn't it? And it is. So we can see it's working, we've done our testing, and it's all good. So that is how to put that multiply app together as far as the script goes.